My fellow Americans, we reached a crossroads. The decisions we make today will shape our nation for generations to come.
On the evening of August 15th, 1971, President Richard Nixon interrupted Bonanza to interrupt history. 60 million Americans stared at their television screens as the president announced that the money in their wallets was changing forever. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets. In one sentence, he ended the Bretton Woods Agreement and decoupled the U.S. dollar from reality. But that wasn't the only shock of the night. To fight the inflation that his own government had created, Nixon announced a 90-day freeze on all wages and prices. He promised it would stop the rising cost of living. He promised it would save the American consumer. Instead, he unleashed chaos. When you make it illegal to raise prices, but you keep printing money to pay for war and welfare, you don't stop inflation, you just change its form. You turn higher prices into empty shelves. Farmers stopped bringing cattle to market because the government price was lower than the cost of feed. Lumber mills shut down, bakeries stopped baking. The supply chain didn't just bend, it broke. Americans were introduced to a new reality, rationing. For thousands of years, from Emperor Diocletian in ancient Rome to Venezuela today, history has taught us one unbreakable economic law. Price controls do not work. They have never worked, and they will never work, but the politicians never learn. It is December 2025. Inflation is roaring back, fueled by tariffs and debt, and in Washington, the same old bad ideas are being dusted off and rebranded for a new generation. They aren't calling it a freeze this time. They are calling it anti-price gouging legislation. They are calling it fair pricing, but the result will be exactly the same as it was in 1971. Only this time, the supply chain is global, just in time, and infinitely more fragile. In this 5-part documentary, we're going to explain the mechanics of the coming shortages. We will show you why your grocery store is about to look like a museum of what used to be, and we will show you how to prepare before the shelves go bare. To understand why the shortages of 2026 will be worse than 1971, we have to look at the engine of the modern inflation crisis. It is December 2025, and the new administration's sweeping tariffs have just gone into full effect. The goal was to bring manufacturing back to America, a noble idea in theory. But in practice, it is an immediate tax on everything that crosses the border. We are not just talking about flat-screen TVs from China. We are talking about the fundamental inputs of the agricultural and industrial economy. Fertilizer components from Russia, steel from Brazil, electronics for farm machinery from Taiwan. Overnight, the cost of doing business for the American producer has skyrocketed 20 to 30%. In a normal free market, the producer passes these costs on to the consumer. Prices at the grocery store go up. People complain, but there is food on the shelf. But this is not a normal market. This is a politically charged environment where inflation is a dirty word. And this brings us to the second half of the disaster, the political vice. Facing public outcry over rising tariff-induced prices, Congress is preparing to pass the Fair Food Pricing Act of 2026. It is Nixon's freeze, rebranded with better marketing. They will make it illegal for companies to raise prices above a certain percentage, labeling anything else as gouging. Now, put yourself in the shoes of an Iowa corn farmer. His diesel fuel is up because of global energy friction. His fertilizer is up because of tariffs. His tractor parts are up. It costs him $4 to grow a bushel of corn. But the new government Fair Price Board says he can only sell it for $3.50. What does the farmer do? Does he plant corn at a guaranteed loss out of patriotism? No, he is a businessman. He leaves the field fallow, or he plants soybeans to sell to Southeast Asia where prices aren't controlled. The supply of American corn drops instantly. Now, multiply that farmer by every bakery, every meat packer, and every trucking company in America. The vice tightens. Costs go up. Prices are held down. Production stops. In 1971, it took months for these shortages to work through the system because we had massive domestic warehouses and inventory. Today, we have something much more efficient and much more dangerous. It is called just-in-time logistics. For the last 30 years, efficiency consultants taught American businesses to eliminate inventory. Inventory costs money to store. It sits there doing nothing. So Walmart, Kroger, and Amazon built a system where the product arrives at the store hours before you buy it. The grocery store you shop at only has about 3 days of food in it at any given time. It is a marvel of efficiency, a beautifully choreographed ballet of global commerce. But it assumes one thing: nothing ever goes wrong. Just in time means there is no buffer. There is no slack in the rope. When the farmer stops planting because of price controls, there is no warehouse full of grain to tide us over. The shock wave travels from the farm to the fork in a matter of days. The collision of rising tariff costs, political price controls, and a fragile just-in-time supply chain creates the perfect storm for empty shelves. In the next part, we will look at the specific items that will vanish first. We are not talking about luxury goods. We are talking about the staples of life that you take for granted. When the supply chain breaks, it doesn't break everywhere at once. When the supply chain breaks, it doesn't break everywhere at once. It breaks in specific critical nodes. We are not predicting a famine where there is zero food. We are predicting a Sovietization of the American grocery store. You will have calories, but you won't have choice. And you won't have the things you actually need to maintain a modern standard of living. Based on the tariff inputs and global trade data, we have compiled the Vanish List. These are the 3 categories of goods that will disappear from shelves in the first 90 days of the Nixon Shock 2.0. Category 1, affordable protein. The U.S. cattle herd is already at its lowest level since 1951. Droughts and high feed costs have forced ranchers to cull their herds. When you add a 20% tariff on imported fertilizer and farm equipment, the cost to raise a cow exceeds the price the government allows the meat to be sold for. Ranchers are not charities. If they lose $200 on every head of cattle, they stop raising cattle. The meat counter at your local grocery store will shrink. Steak will become a black market luxury item. Chicken and beef will be rationed. You will see the rise of meat substitutes pushed by the government as a patriotic alternative. Category 2, critical medicine. This is the most terrifying vulnerability in the American system. We do not make our own drugs anymore. Up to 90% of the core chemicals used to make generic antibiotics, painkillers, and blood pressure meds come from China and India. If we slap a 60% tariff on China, Beijing has a nuclear option. They don't have to fire a missile. They just have to delay the shipment of active pharmaceutical ingredients, APIs. Within 30 days, U.S. pharmacies run out of amoxicillin. Within 60 days, hospitals run out of saline and anesthesia. The price controls will make it impossible for importers to pay the higher tariffs and still make a profit, so the supply simply stops. We will see medicine swaps on neighborhood social media groups, people trading half-used bottles of pills like gold. Category 3. We live in a machine civilization. Everything depends on complex mechanical systems working. Your car, your HVAC system, your refrigerator, the trucks that deliver food. Category 3. We live in a machine civilization. Everything depends on sensors made in Taiwan or Mexico. With tariffs and trade wars, the aftermarket parts supply chain dries up first. New cars go to the highest bidder, but fixing old cars becomes impossible. We will see the Cubanization of the American vehicle fleet. Americans keeping 20-year-old trucks running with handmade parts because they cannot buy a new alternator. When the trucks stop running, the food stops moving. This is the bullwhip effect. A small policy change in Washington, tariffs, creates a massive catastrophe at the local level, empty shelves, and the government's response to these shortages will only make it worse. They will introduce digital rationing. In 1971, you needed a paper coupon to buy gas on even-numbered days. In 2026, your rationing card will be tied to your digital ID. Well, you have already bought your quota of meat for the week. Transaction denied. This is how they hide the inflation. The official price of steak might stay low, but you can't buy it. So the official CPI numbers look good, but the real standard of living collapses. This is the Vanish List: meat, medicine, repair parts. In the next part, we will explore the inevitable rise of the black market. When the legal market fails, the illegal market takes over. And we will show you how ordinary Americans will survive by becoming gray market entrepreneurs. They simply disappear from the legal market. They move into the shadows. This is the iron law of economics. The black market is the free market. In 2026, when the grocery store shelves are empty because of price controls, the real economy will move to the parking lot. We will see the rise of the gray market entrepreneur. These aren't drug dealers. They are your neighbors. They are the people who prepared. When you can't buy antibiotics at CVS because the supply chain from China is broken, you will buy them from a nurse in your neighborhood who stockpiled them a year ago. When you can't buy a replacement part for your furnace because of tariffs, you will hire a retired mechanic who knows how to machine the part from scrap metal in his backyard. The currency of this new economy will not be the US dollar, because the dollar is losing value by the hour due to inflation, and because the government is tracking every digital dollar transaction. The currency of the black market will be hard assets. Silver coins, junk silver, goldbacks, barter items like alcohol, ammunition, and coffee, and for larger transactions, Bitcoin held in self-custody wallets. The government knows this is coming. They have studied history too. In the Soviet Union, the black market kept the people alive, but the US government has technology the Soviets could only dream of. They will try to crush the shadow economy using digital enforcement. This brings us back to the central bank digital currency, CBDC, threat we discussed in previous videos. When rationing begins, they will tie your consumption to your digital ID. If you buy too much meat, the system flags you as a hoarder. If you withdraw too much cash, the system flags you as a black market actor. They will implement anti-hoarding laws. In 1933, FDR made it illegal to hoard gold. In 2026, they will make it illegal to hoard essential goods. Your preparedness will be criminalized. They will encourage neighbors to snitch on neighbors. See something, say something will apply to your pantry. This creates a society of low trust and high paranoia. But despite the surveillance, the black market will thrive. It always does, because hunger is a more powerful motivator than fear. People will find ways to trade off the grid. They will use encrypted messaging apps like Signal to organize local markets. They will meet in church basements and community centers. They will rediscover the power of local supply chains. The giant corporations, Walmart, Amazon, Kroger, will be the ones suffering the empty shelves because they are too big to hide. They have to follow the price controls. But the local farmer selling eggs for silver coins, he is too small to regulate. This is the decentralization of the economy. The tariff shock will destroy the efficiency of the global system, but it will force a return to the resilience of the local system. The question is, are you part of a local network? Or are you entirely dependent on the app on your phone to feed you? If the grid goes down, or the price controls lock up the supply, your Amazon Prime membership is worthless. Your relationship with a local cattle rancher is priceless. We are entering a period of economic Darwinism. The adaptable will survive. The dependent will suffer. So, how do you prepare for the shortages? What exactly should you buy now, while the shelves are still full? In the final part of this documentary, we will give you the pre-shock shopping list, the specific items that will become the new gold in 2026. We have exposed the mechanism of the tariffs and the price controls, and we have looked into the dark future of the shortages. Now, we have arrived at the most important moment, the moment of action. Right now, in December 2025, the grocery stores are still full. The pharmacies still have pills in the bottles. The auto parts stores still have inventory. This is the eye of the storm. You have a brief window of opportunity to convert your depreciating dollars into appreciating goods. This is not hoarding. This is personal supply chain management. This is building a bank of things. If inflation is 20% and a can of beef stew goes up 20% in price, buying that can today is a guaranteed 20% return on investment. It is a better return than the S&P 500, and you can eat it. Here is the pre-shock shopping list. The specific assets you need to acquire before the price controls lock the market down. Item number 1, shelf-stable protein. When the cattle herds are culled and the price of fresh meat skyrockets, canned protein becomes the new gold standard of the kitchen. It lasts for 5 to 10 years. It requires no refrigeration. Buy what you actually eat. Tuna, salmon, chicken, beef. Build a 6-month supply. This buys you independence from the rationing card. Item number 2, medical redundancy. If you depend on a daily prescription, you are vulnerable. Talk to your doctor about getting a 90-day supply. Stockpile over-the-counter painkillers, antibiotics, and allergy meds. When the supply chain from China breaks, these simple items will become tradable currency. Item number 3, critical spare parts. Look at the machines that keep your life running. What is the failure point of your car? The alternator, the battery, the belts? Buy those parts now. Buy filters for your HVAC system. Buy a spare igniter for your furnace. In 2026, these parts might be on a 6-month back order. Having them on your shelf is the difference between a minor inconvenience and a crisis. Item number 4, energy independence. Energy prices will soar due to the tariffs on oil and the green restrictions. You don't need to go fully off-grid. Just get a backup, a dual fuel generator that runs on propane, a supply of batteries. Energy is life. If you can generate your own, you are free. Item number 5, the barter stack. These are the items that will always have value, even if the dollar goes to zero. Coffee, alcohol, ammunition, seeds. These are small, durable, and universally desired. They are the small change of the black market. The Nixon shock of 1971 taught us a brutal lesson. The government cannot fix inflation by decree. They can only create shortages. The price controls are coming. The tariffs are coming. The shelves will empty, but they won't empty for everyone. They won't empty for the person who saw the pattern. They won't empty for the person who acted while others argued. You have the knowledge. Now you need the supplies. Don't wait for the panic. Don't wait for the rationing card. Build your ark, because the rain is coming.